And we're back. Joe, just a little update on Josh Allen. I don't know if you saw this come through. They said he's being evaluated for an elbow injury in his ulnar collateral ligament. I don't know if you know what that is, Joe. That's UCL. So, yeah, that means a little something more to me and you as baseball players. So, a
Yeah,
UCL injury, not good. And they said they hope to have more information on Tuesday. So, that'll be when this comes out. So, you'll know more. Making this
yeah. Well,
update
hopefully it's not
useless.
too bad. Definitely don't want to see. I don't even know who the backup is in Buffalo
It's
throwing to
not
Stephon
Mitch.
Diggs. Nope, it's not. I want Josh Allen throwing Stephon Diggs, and that is final.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's a little interesting. Obviously, again, it's different. It's not very common, I feel like, for football players to have those elbow injuries, the quarterbacks. But for someone like me and you and people who know baseball, the UCL is not a very good sign when it comes to throwing.
No, nah, that ain't good.
So, yikes. Let's get into the Sunday recap, and we start nowhere else but in Washington, D.C. The Vikings. They win, but it was a good game, and the Commanders covered. Uh, Vikings now 7-1. They win 2017 over the Commanders, who are 4-5. And the Vikings, they're 7-1. And I think the reason they're not getting a whole ton of attention is they don't really play full games. Like, you're
No,
never walking away.
they're
Like,
never
even
really
Justin
that like
Jefferson.
good games.
No, and Justin Jefferson gets catches early, and he ends up with a good. Don't get me wrong, ends up with a good output here, 7 for 115 and a touchdown. But if you watch the full game, he was very quiet from after the first possession to really maybe end of the third quarter. I
hmm
mean, he still gets it done, so you're not gonna complain, but it's got to be super frustrating to watch.
Well, I know on
Uh,
the first drive alone he had 5 catches and a touchdown. So
yeah, but then so he ends with two more catches,
yeah,
and he did have a
so
10-yard rush, but Dalvin Cook 17 for 47. That was pretty much it for him. Two
yeah,
catches for 9 yards.
he did find the end zone in the passing game to make up for it fantasy wise.
Yes.
And then flip side, Brian Robinson did have 2 more carries than Antonio Gibson, but like I said, Gibson wasn't involved in the passing game like I thought he would be. He only had 2 catches for 11 yards. Brian Robinson, 2 catches for -6 yards. So that shows how well he's been doing in the passing game. And then Terry McLaurin had 556. He was the leading targets at 9 and the leading receptions at 5. But then Curtis had the bomb touchdown. If he doesn't have that, he has a bad day. Really nothing to highlight on the Washington side for offense. Their defense held strong until the end of the game. I know they gave up a touchdown on the first drive, then they didn't score again until the fourth quarter when they got that field goal on the turnover. I believe is when they kicked the field goal. And then, so yeah, there was more defense in this game than offense. Obviously, you were happy with Justin Jefferson, probably decently happy with Kirk Cousins, and Dalvin Cook at least found the end zone to save the day.
Yeah, and just to highlight one more time, we talked about TJ Hawkinson. 9 targets, caught every
Yeah,
single
yeah, yeah.
one, 9 catches for 70 yards in his first game with a new team. I mean, that's just what you're looking for. So,
Yep.
very good stuff from TJ Hawkins. And let's go to our next game. The Chargers and the Falcons. Chargers go on the road and win 20-17 at a last second field goal. The Chargers are now 5-3. Atlanta's 4-5. They fall back into a tie for the division lead, but they do not lead the division anymore. That belongs to the 4-5 Tom Brady Bucks. Okay. Just letting you
Gross.
know. Justin Herbert throws the ball a ton, but they just don't score. Just one touchdown, also threw a pick. Austin Eckler gets both the touchdowns, one through the air, one on the ground. I mean, this is until someone else comes back. Obviously, you can throw Palmer in there, but until you start seeing guys like Keenan Allen, I mean, God help he get on the fucking field.
Yeah. Who knows?
Or Mike Williams come back from his ankle injury. It's just not going to be, I just don't think it's a very good recipe for Herbert because those are the big targets. And I just
Yep.
don't, he's not running that much. I think he's getting healthier. I still think he was dealing with that rib injury we saw earlier, but he's not running. And the touchdowns are all going to go to Eckler, and you'll get one through the air. But, I just think this is kind of going to be the kind of output you get. A ton of use, but not a lot of production in the touchdowns.
Yeah, I think Palmer should be pretty good as long as Keenan Allen is still out. Obviously, Mike Williams will be out for a couple more weeks. And then Austin Eckler is the only other lock. I mean, I think most of the time you're still playing Justin Herbert just because quarterback has been kind of difficult this year, to be honest. But I think you're going to play the guy that's thrown 40 to 50 times a week. Um, And then Austin Eckler is locked in. But besides that, I mean, Gerald Everett's been getting it done just because tight end is gross. So you've never had a game where you were like completely upset with Gerald Everett, really. And then on the flip side, Cordero Patterson is back, 13 for 44, so not a
Yeah,
great average there, but found the
he
end zone twice.
he looked good, and I also say he was on a pitch count and still
Yeah,
gave you great
but when he was
production.
in, he looked good.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so that I think
Tyler
that's
Algier
just a
looked
good
really good
sign.
too, 10 for 99 on the
Yeah,
ground as well. I think that they're going to kind of be a little tandem from here on out, to be honest. But I think Cordero will be that a red zone kind of back that's going to get in to pound them in for the touchdown, which they like to do. They don't really like to throw in that situation very often.
I think you can roster Algier, but I don't think you're giving him a start anymore because Patterson, his snaps are only going to go up, and he was
Yep.
the offense. And you were probably going to say this, but you can't do anything with this passing attack.
Nope, you can't.
Nothing there. I mean,
There's
go ahead
nothing
and
to
look.
highlight at all.
Go ahead
It's
and look at
gross.
all of it. And
I mean,
they're
Kyle
throwing a little
Pitts and
more.
Drake London, they both had 7 targets, so that's good. But 2 catches and 3 catches for 27 and 23 yards. So, I mean,
It's just
you just can't work with that. Kyle Pitts had 1 good week last week. I don't really see that happening too many more times this season. It's just gross.
I mean, besides Cordell Patterson, really, I don't think you can start anyone on this Atlanta offense for
Mm-mm.
the
I don't
foreseeable
think so
future. I mean,
either.
if they make a QB change with Ritter, I don't know how much better that gets. You can't really. I mean, there's talent on this offense, obviously. We've seen it with the pass catchers, but it's just not working out. And to be honest, I think they're in a better position record wise than they thought they'd be. So I don't think they're going to complain a lot,
No, and it seems like this is what they want to be doing.
which
Earlier
sucks,
on in the
right?
season, yeah, it does. It really does. Because Drake London looked like an absolute steal in fantasy drafts, #1 overall wide receiver in the NFL draft this year. Um, and he had 3 weeks to start the season where he was a top 24 wide receiver. Looked like a great wide receiver one for his team, and just hasn't been getting it done since. Also, quick little news: Deshaun Jackson active versus the
Oh
Saints.
yeah,
Just
you
got that
better
alert.
believe it. You
Yep.
better believe it,
That's all I
Djax.
got to say about them damn Falcons, though.
All right, let's go to Chicago, which we got a good football game fantasy wise.
Hell yeah.
Dolphins going to Chicago win 35-32. Late pass interference call that was not made on Chase Claypool, who was out there for the Bears. Dolphins improved to 6-3, Bears 3-6. Like I said, at halftime, I got this over under. I believe there was 34 total points, and I took it at 64.5 under because I thought, you know what? Run the ball, slow it down a little bit. And it was just explosive play after explosive play. I mean, the
Yeah,
Dolphins
it
are
was
running a
crazy.
college offense, and then Justin Fields has a couple long runs, and Justin Fields has been the best quarterback in fantasy over the last 4 weeks. This time, I think this is his high in passing completions. He was 17-28, only 123 yards, but throws for 3 touchdowns, runs for 178 with a touchdown. And it's kind of, Lamar-esque where like, even when he's throwing a lot, he'll throw for a lot of touchdowns. The yards are never going to be there because the
Yep.
offense just works differently. But it's not a problem when you're throwing touchdowns. They're scoring a lot.
Yeah.
And for
See,
God's
I
sakes,
don't.
Joe, Cole Kmet scored two
I know, dude.
touchdowns.
Both times it happened, I was like, that was my preseason darling. I was like yelling that. I was like, I told you guys, he's gonna be good this year. I mean, obviously, it took 8 weeks because last week I think he scored. Now 2 this week. Man, I wish Cole Kmet would have been more. I don't know to what extent you can really buy into that, considering he only completed 17 passes. I mean, and now Chase Claypool's there. We'll get more and more involved, but you don't really see a quarterback rush for 50 more yards than he threw in the air on 28 pass attempts. That's pretty shocking.
You need to
Um,
see your quarterback outrun your running back by
yeah,
140 yards.
yeah, that's
Are you nervous
definitely.
about David Montgomery?
Oh, I mean, he's not looking good. He had a 2.6 yards per carry against a Miami defense that was bleeding offensive production. Um, God, I don't want to say I'm
I think you got to
worried,
hold.
especially because they're playing Detroit next week. So you're got to assume a bounce back. But it's just he's not a set it and forget it
Adjusted
kind of guy
adjusted
because just
expectations for
yeah,
sure.
you definitely have to adjust that because if Justin Fields is going to rush 15 times a game, I mean, David Montgomery's going to take a hit. But
Yeah.
Justin Fields, I think he's still going to continue to be good. But I am going to kind of slow it down a little bit. I don't see him throwing 3 touchdowns on top of that rushing production every single week, you know? So
Yeah.
I think it'll come down. I think the rushing is what's going to save him to still be a startable quarterback going forward. But I don't think he's going to be scorching the earth for the rest of the season. Just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, I'll let you take the Miami rushing in a second,
Yeah,
but just to say Tua has been good again, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and Tyreek's on pace for over 2,000 yards, 7 for 143,
it's fucking
touchdown,
awesome.
and Waddle, 5 for 85 and touchdown. These guys are both top 5 fantasy wide receivers. Now, here's where it gets real dicey because both players had 9 carries, and Wilson was more involved in the passing game.
Yep. Yeah, both had 9 carries. Jeff Wilson actually ran much better on the ground too, 9 for 51 for him, and Mostert only 9 for 26, less than the 3 yards per carry. Mostert found the end zone on the ground, and also Mostert had a 14 yard long run, so almost half of his yards came on one play. You already mentioned Hill and Waddle, obviously, and Jeff Wilson, three catches on 3 targets for 21 and a touchdown, where Mostert had 2 targets and 0 catches. So, I mean, this could be a tandem that you're playing as like a flex level running back on a weekly basis, as long as we continue to see that kind of production. So, definitely curious to see, considering it seemed as if Raheem Mostert had won the job for himself. But with Jeff Wilson, a guy that I know Mike McDaniels is obviously familiar with, definitely muddies up the water a little bit there. And I think they're both startable flex level guys, like I said.
On to Cincinnati, where the Bengals won 42-21 over the Panthers. Bengals now 5-4, Panthers 2-7. It really wasn't even that close. It was all garbage
Nope.
time pretty much for the Panthers, and there's really not a lot to say about this besides it was Joe Mixon, 22 for 153 and 4 touchdowns. Then he also caught 4 balls for 58 yards and a touchdown, 5 total touchdowns. The only one that wasn't was just a Joe Burrow rushing touchdown. So, I mean,
That they
that was
probably could have easily handed off to him and given him another one
yeah.
because they were on the half-yard line.
That was the Bengals on the other side of the Panthers. I
Yeah,
mean, really nothing to talk about. It sucked. Donta Foreman, 7 carries for 23 yards. I also think did he get not hurt or left the game for a little bit? I'm not really sure. It
not
just
sure. I
wasn't.
didn't see that.
But I
I
know
think
Baker Mayfield played
these
this.
next 3 games is really nothing to highlight that you're happy about with Bengals, Panthers, and then I have Green Bay Lions and
Oh yeah, we'll
Indianapolis, New England.
I will
Like
say the heartbreaking thing is Baker Mayfield played the second half.
yeah, and he's scoring touchdowns. So
But they
that's
did say that
bad.
PJ Walker, they came out and said PJ Walker starting this Thursday against the
That's
Falcons.
good. Okay,
Yeah.
that is good news for the offenses in general. I think that's good.
All right, so let's go to the next one then. The Lions win 15 to
Yeah,
9 over
just
the
stinky.
Packers.
15-9. Stinky.
Lions 2-6, Packers 3-6. Rodgers threw 3 picks. They were all in the red zone. 2 of them, I believe, at the goal line or in the end zone. Alan Lazard 4 for 87 with the touchdown. He also missed out on a second touchdown because he was down at the 1 yard line. That was
Yep.
the one of the drives where an interception happened. So I mean, it was just super frustrating. The Packers also got banged up this weekend. AJ Dillon fumbled. I mean, it's tough. I don't think you can start anyone besides. I
Besides
mean,
the 24
Lazard.
carries, Jamal Williams on the other side.
Okay, so let me get into this. DeAndre Swift carried the ball twice for 10 yards. He also had 3 catches for 40. I think he only played 9 snaps and he still got you 8 points. I mean, the guy
It's crazy.
still gets points and he doesn't play. I don't know what you can do for the rest of the year because Jamal Williams, like you said, 24 carries. He's the guy. And I think
I mean, he's
Swift
been
came into
looking
the
good too. It's not like he's somebody that's like
but I
not
hate him.
getting it done. Yeah, I know. He's a vulture, but he's been getting it done too. That's the bad part for DeAndre Swift managers is that Jamal Williams hasn't looked bad getting this work. He's looked good. And when they get him in the red zone, he scores touchdowns. It seems like every time they put him in there, he's scoring.
Swift came out and said also that he doesn't think he'll be healthy for the rest of the year. Like on that, he won't
Yeah.
be 100% for the rest of the year. So I don't
Yep.
know. I think this is just. I mean, I don't even own. I drafted Swift. He was like my big guy. I thought was going to really break out this year.
Yeah. I
I
was
drafted
with
him
you.
in 2 leagues, and I don't have a share of him at all anymore. But I like him as a player, and I want to see him play.
Yeah.
Again, not a lot to break down here. The Packers going forward, if Jones isn't playing, I don't know how you start anyone besides Lazard. And,
Lazard.
and with
Lazard
the
should bump
Lions,
up too with Dobbs gone. You should bump
yeah,
up even more.
with the Lions, I think Amon Ra is going to be fine.
I think
I
so
think,
too.
yeah. I mean, not really worried there. It's been a couple of down weeks. I think he's still coming back from an ankle injury. I think every week gets better. But let's go to our next game, which was the Jacksonville Jaguars. Breaking a big losing streak. They win 27-20. They're 3-6. Las Vegas is 2-6. And it's funny you said that earlier because when it was 17-3 or 17-7, I looked at Diego in the sports book and I went, This is a total Raiders thing to do. They're going to lose this
Yep.
game after coming out so hot.
I had the same thought.
I mean, it was unbelievable. They came out. It was all Devontae Adams. I think Devontae Adams on the first drive after it ended had 20 fantasy points. And then he
Just
had 30,
absurd.
37 after the third drive. And he had 2 touchdowns. He had 1 catch in the second half for 0 yards. So he ended with 10 for 146 and 2 touchdowns. Obviously amazing. But it was just
Yeah.
crazy how it completely flipped. They couldn't do anything. There was nothing. I mean, outside of the 10 catches from Adams, 3 from Renfro, 3 from Jacobs, 2 from Foster Moreau, the tight end. Matt Collins, 2 catches. There was nothing going. Jacobs 17 for 67, still dominated the backfield. But I mean, it was unbelievable. They couldn't do anything. On the other side, Jacksonville, not a great
Speaking of
fantasy
dominating the backfield, though, 28 carries for Travis
Yeah.
Etienne.
I mean, he's the truth. 28 for 109 and 2 touchdowns. I mean, Christian Kirk looked good. Trevor Lawrence, I think, is a viable streaming option on matchup. What do you think, Joe? I mean, I think you can start Christian Kirk almost any week. He's clearly the number 1, and Etienne's the stud.
Yeah, I think Travis Etienne is locked in from here on out. Trevor Lawrence, he's kind of been getting it done, but also, I mean, 6 for 53 on the ground. That was pretty nice to see. Christian Kirk, like you said, I think he's in just about every week because he will be the number 1 target. Evan Ingram kind of came back down to earth. He had been somebody that was kind of reliable in the tight end world.
He got hurt, I believe, left a portion of this game, but yeah, he was not good.
Yeah, not a whole lot else. Kind of Christian Kirk, Travis Etienne, and Trevor Lawrence at a streamer if necessary is really the only thing you can really look for in Jacksonville.
Let's go to New England, where the Colts didn't do a damn thing and their coach is gone.
Nope.
26-3, Patriots win. They're 5-4. Indianapolis 3-5-1. Sam Ehlinger, 15-29, 103. No touchdowns, a pick.
The Patriots defense got me 38 points in my work league. 38.
Deion Jackson, 11 for 23. Tough.
Gross.
I don't think, to be quite honest with you, it could have been Jonathan Taylor back there. I don't think it would have been much different.
No, I don't think so either.
Killing. They are killing I mean, I don't know what they're going to do, but Matt Ryan was not good, but like this is not a formidable offense.
Yeah.
They killed anything they had. I mean, Alec Pierce was starting to show something. Paris Campbell was serviceable on like a real streaming option, and Michael Pittman, they've killed everything. Those 3 guys combined for 6 catches and under 70 yards.
Well, unless they're expecting Sam Ehlinger to be the future, why did Matt Ryan ever get benched? Like he wasn't good. Don't get me wrong, but he's that bridge guy that I thought that they were bringing him in for.
It was a conversation. I think I don't know if this is confirmed, but I think it's part of like the firing is. I think it was upper management, ownership, GM stuff. There was talk they wanted to bench Matt Ryan, which makes no sense because they brought him in. I'm not saying I think Matt Ryan should be the Colts quarterback this year, but you already committed to that with the draft pick, and I mean you went and got him. So you might as well use him because this is no better. And I don't know how you can use anyone on the Indianapolis Colts right now. It doesn't make any sense. I have Pittman in the league. I think I have to start him. But, whenever Jonathan Taylor comes back, because he's still hurt, who knows if he plays next week? How can you use anyone in the Indianapolis Colts offense?
You can't. And I don't think you should, to be honest. I think even Michael Pittman from here on out, if Sam Ehlinger is the quarterback, I don't think you should be starting Michael Pittman either. I mean, this may be the first time of any of the teams so far that we're saying you shouldn't start anybody. Obviously, if Jonathan Taylor's back, you're starting him. But if Deion Jackson is going to be the starting running back next week with the same offense, there's no way I'm putting him out
there. So it's a juicy matchup, though.
Who is
it? They play the Raiders.
Dang, that is kind of crazy.
We'll get to that next episode. But the Patriots, Patriots outside of Ramondre Stevenson were no better. I mean, they just kind of.
Ramondre.
I mean, Mac Jones 20 of 30 for less than 150. 1 touchdown went to Ramondre Stevenson. He is the truth. Everyone else not really there. I mean, this another game that wasn't really great for fantasy, not really great to watch. So, like I said, I was in a sports book and they had Red Zone on. And then they have the big screen is Red Zone, and they have a bunch of also big TVs, but they have every game on. The top left corner was that Colts and Patriots game. I don't think I saw that game really ever go to Red Zone.
No, except for the Ramondre Stevenson touchdown. That was it.
Yeah. and maybe the defensive touchdowns from New England.
Yeah.
Uh, anyways, that was that game. Brutal. Let's get into maybe the surprise of the week. And Soup, after all the nonsense he took, was at least got a nice smirk on his face from the New York Jets winning 20-17 over the Buffalo Bills. Jets now 6-3, Buffalo 6-2. We talked about Josh Allen's injury. He threw 2 picks, no touchdowns. Still got you 24 points with that, though.
2 rushing touchdowns. That's why.
There's a difference right there. I was just going to say 9 carries for 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. Singletary was no good. James Cook, no good. Nyheim Hines had a target, so nothing there. Stephon Diggs, 5 for 93, not his best game. Gabe Davis, 2 for 33. Like I said, I mean, he's either going to boom or bust in the truest sense.
Yep.
Even more extreme Mike Williams, it seems to be, is Gabe Davis's role.
Yeah.
The Jets, Michael Carter, 12 for 76 and a touchdown, and then James Robinson was the recipient of the touchdown pass. But really, I think the biggest thing here is Garrett Wilson, 8 for 92. Solid game with Zach Wilson as quarterback for Garrett Wilson. It could have been even better, obviously, if he scores, but just from a straight no touchdown perspective, 8 catches for 92 yards, very encouraging from Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, it's back-to-back good weeks for Garrett Wilson with Zach Wilson as the quarterback. So definitely encouraging. Elijah Moore, there's thoughts of them starting to feed him some targets to make him a little happier. That ain't happening. I think the Jets are just going to stick it to Elijah Moore, say we're not trading you, not getting rid of you, but you will be on this team and you will not be used, which is shocking considering he was definitely a breakout candidate for a lot of people this year, I think. But Garrett Wilson seems to be the one guy in this passing game that will hopefully be consistent. I think James Robinson will continue to get more involved as well, but I do think it'll kind of be a Jeff Wilson, Raheem Mostert type run from here on out with those two would be my guess.
Seattle goes into Arizona and wins 31-21. Seattle 6-3, leading the division. Arizona 3-6. I believe they're in the basement. Geno Smith, just been a stud all year. 26-34, 275, 2 touchdowns. Threw a pick in this game that I believe might have been a pick 6. I think it was, and I think it was more of a miscommunication thing, but nonetheless, Kenneth Walker.
It was a pick 6. Yep.
Yeah. Ken Walker, I feel like he always, not only does he score 2 touchdowns, it's like a lock, but he scores them it's usually like a decently close game, Seattle's trailing, and then he just puts the nail in the coffin with these late runs. Yep. He's just great. 20, like I said, 26, 109, 2 touchdowns. Receiving game, again, Noah Fant got super involved. 5 for 96. Don't bank on that every week. But again, Lockett and Metcalf, I mean, you can pencil them in every week. One of them scores. They both score a touchdown. Yep. One will have more yards with the same amount of catches for the second straight week. It's good stuff. I mean, Seattle has been a pleasant surprise all year.
Yeah, no kidding. No negative really thing to say about the offense in Seattle because you're really happy with anybody that you started from that team. But on the flip side, Arizona has just been not winning games. Like you mentioned, Cliff Kingsbury is definitely the next man up on the hot seat right now. And I think if something goes south for Washington, Ron Rivera might find his way on that hot seat too, especially with the ownership stuff that's happening. But, Kyler had the most carries on the offense, 8 for 60. James Conner, 7 for 45. He did look pretty good, though. Like, when he was getting the ball, I'm sure he was on a snap count. I don't know that to be true.
I was very impressed with James Conner. I mean, not a great day, but I liked what I saw from him. I think he looked the best he did all year. And Rondale Moore, I thought, looked great. He's been good ever since Hopkins came back, 8 for 69.
Yeah. Zach Ertz also found the end zone. Seattle's been bleeding points to the tight end position. James Conner did have 5 catches, so that's definitely a good thing to see that I think he'll continue to get the rushing attempts and the passing work like he used to. I think he'll continue to build up as the ribs are getting healthier and healthier. But Arizona as a whole have still just not been able to win games, which is kind of shocking considering they were like 7 or 8-0 to start off last year, and now they're 3-6. So it's strange.
All right, we can get into our next matchup between the LA Rams and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And let me let the audience know, Joe Briner, my co-host, did not bring his laptop charger. There was some connection issues this entire episode. And it's just me for the rest of the podcast. So everybody buckle in. It's the Nick Testoni show. I got 2 games and a Thursday night preview. So if you want to hear the sweet, docile sounds of my voice, we'll lock in for the next 3 games we're going to talk about. Tampa Bay, Rams. Tampa wins 16-13. A brutal game. Just you can't even watch some of these offenses operate right now. This is an NFC Championship rematch, and these two teams couldn't be further from what they were a year ago. Matt Stafford, 13 to 27, 165 and a touchdown. I mean, Cooper Kupp is the truth every week. He caught the touchdown pass, 8 for 127, but everybody else not involved. Allen Robinson, 3 for 24. Just a disappointment all year. Can't really say that much about the Rams. They've been a disappointment all year. The one thing that was nice to see was Darrell Henderson was the clear leader in the backfield. Cam Akers. Cam Akers was never going to play for the Rams again. 5 carries for 3 yards. I don't know what to say. He was there. He came back to practice and he played the game. But Darrell Henderson, 12 for 56, looked the best. But the Rams have serious problems. And they need to. I don't know how this changes because they're now 3-5 and looking up at 2 teams in the division that seem to be much better than them. One is the 49ers, who we think is better than them roster-wise, and then the surprising Seahawks. I mean, if you saw the Seahawks and Rams play today, who are you taking? Because I think the Seahawks are just clicking. Better aura around that team. On Tampa's side, they move now back into first place at 4-5. I thought this game was over when they did not convert. There was a forced ball on 4th down. Scotty Miller dropped a wide open touchdown pass that could have taken the lead earlier. And it would have saved my day fantasy-wise because then Tom Brady comes back down and gets another touchdown opportunity. Goes to Cade Otton, who I think is a really interesting look at tight end for the rest of the year. Think about how much better the offense looked with Rob Gronkowski. Obviously, a lot more connection there over the years. But, if you give Brady a nice, solid tight end that can continue to be a safety valve, I think it just works a little better. And Cade Otton has now had string together a couple of good games, 5 for 68 and a touchdown. Something to look at in a very thin tight end market. Scotty Miller, 7 for 53, obviously the big drop. Leonard Fournette has been brutal on the ground, 9 for 19, but he eats up these dump-off passes, which saves him in his fantasy output. So he's stayed off the tires of the week, but, I mean, really Leonard Fournette has not been good for a couple of weeks now. And then Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. What's going on? They're getting the targets. Godwin, 7 for 36. Mike Evans, 5 for 40. I mean, it's crazy to watch the Buccaneers in a game where Tom Brady threw 58 times for 280 yards. They just cannot score touchdowns. I don't know if this is going to change. You obviously got to start these guys. I mean, if you have Leonard Fournette, you still got to start him. I think White's a good stash, but, Evans and Godwin, you got to put out there because the volume's there. I mean, both these guys went over 10 targets, but it's just bizarre that this Tampa Bay Buccaneer offense can only manage 16 points when they're moving the ball so much. Let's get into our Sunday night game. The Kansas City Chiefs against the Tennessee Titans. Chiefs win 2017 in overtime. Crazy game where the Chiefs came out pretty good, but then it was controlled by the Titans for the majority of the time. And when they're controlling the game, how do you only give the ball to Derrick Henry 17 times? I mean, most of his damage came on 2 drives. He had a big, long 56-yard run, 2 touchdowns, so he was great for fantasy. But when you're leading this game, I mean, look at the carries Derrick Henry's gotten in other games. He's one of the few guys that gets up there. He'll get 30 carries a game, 17 carries. I mean, to be fair, Tennessee did not run a lot of plays, but Malik Willis, 5 for 16. Last week, he was 6 for 10, 80 yards. He's yet to throw for more than, this is his career high in a game, 80 yards passing, no touchdowns. I mean, it was already very slim looking at the Tennessee wide receiver room. It's not good. And now with this at quarterback, I mean, Malik Willis, I thought he looked fine scrambling around, but you take in a very inexperienced quarterback with a brutal wide receiver room. I mean, your leading reception was Austin Hooper. When's the last time his name carried any relevance outside of Atlanta? Never. So, it's pretty much Derrick Henry, and that's it. And it's crazy how some of these teams have become so one-dimensional that, like, something like the Tennessee Titans, you can only start Derrick Henry. In Green Bay, you can only start Allen Lazard. It's absurd. On the other side, the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes threw the ball 68 times for 446 yards, and they only scored 20 points. 1 touchdown. He also threw a pick. The backfield looks like a mess. I mean, Mahomes was a superstar because he also ran for 63 yards and a touchdown, but Edwards-Helaire, 4 carries, 5 yards. Pacheco, who was the starter, I was forced to start him in the league, 5 carries for 5 yards. Jerick McKinnon, 3 for 4. Can't start any of those running backs right now. I know Edwards-Helaire came out hot, but it's just a mix. But, I mean, you got to think something happens because 63 yards rushing from Mahomes, those three running backs, who is their three-headed monster, if you could even call it that, a combined 14 yards. Now in the passing game, obviously, when you throw the ball almost 70 times for over 400 yards, there's plenty to go around. Travis Kelce, 10 for 106. Juju, 10 for 88. Hardman, 6 for 79 with a touchdown. I thought he looked really good. Really didn't get to see Kadarius Toney that much, just 2 for 12. Had a nice highlight reel where he ran a good route, but it'll be interesting to see as the weeks go on how he gets involved. I think you can still hold on him. But right now, I don't know how you can't start a running back there. You're starting, I mean, honestly, obviously Kelce and Mahomes, but I think you got to, Hardman and Juju are flex. You got to flex them because they're going to throw the ball. They're clearly saying we will throw the football to win games. There's no commitment to this running back room. I know Pacheco looks good at times, but I mean, 5 for 5 ain't going to cut it. Anyways, that was the Sunday, at least at the tail end, the Nick Testoni solo Sunday recap. We have one last thing to get into in this show, and it's the Thursday night football preview. It's going to be an interesting one. Atlanta and Carolina. Just 2 weeks ago, these teams gave us an absolute barn burner in a crazy game where it was back and forth, and Carolina tried to win twice, but they really didn't want to because they missed 2 field goals. DJ Moore takes his helmet off, and the Falcons end up winning. But these two teams will run it back on Thursday Night Football. In Carolina, it's a 3-point dogs are the Panthers at home, over under 43.5. You're right now, it's interesting to see where you go in the backfield with Carolina because D'Onta Foreman was not good. We'll see if Chuba Hubbard comes back. He was inactive this past week. And then, PJ Walker, we didn't know is going to get the start. So it's really up to how your roster is constructed. If you want to throw DJ Moore out there, I think, you're just going to get some DJ Moore weeks, and sometimes you're not going to get it. I think it's better that PJ Walker's starting. But I will say today they have announced that Sam Darnold is back in the fold. He's coming off of IR. I think I'd rather have PJ Walker or Sam Darnold quarterback this team than Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield does not give any wide receiver production. And I think you just got to hope he does not get in the game because he'll kill it fantasy-wise. Very slim options here because I don't know who you're starting on Atlanta besides Cordero. There's another team where you're really, it's one thing. And I know Kyle Pitts, you still maybe put out there because the tight end market's slim, but it's tough. It's tough sledding. I think I'm going to be on Atlanta here, -3. They run the ball very well. I think you get a little more of Cordero Patterson. He can have a very good game against this Carolina team. I'm going to be on the Falcons, and I hate to say it because they're a very frustrating team to watch, but the Carolina Panthers, they're not giving me much. It's another tough one on Thursday night, but I think this could be a pretty decent game. They gave us a good game 2 weeks ago. I'm hopeful they give us another at least exciting, compelling game, and give me the Falcons and give me Cordero Patterson to have a pretty good game. Hey, that was the Thursday preview, and this was the Eastside Fantasy Football Podcast, solo hosted at the end here by me, Nick Testoni. I don't have a lot more to say. I might be 1-8 in this league by the time this comes out. It's been a rough year. I say it every week, it has been, and I get a lot of slack from people in the league, but guess what? It's still football, and I'm having a good time watching it. And guess what? I might go to 6-3 in my other league, so don't think I'm a total idiot. I give out some decent advice. Hopefully we get Soup on the next episode. Get him a rant to go on about Joe Mixon as we head into week 10. Absolutely absurd. We're going into week 10. And by the time this comes out, hopefully my Ravens got a win, and they're going on by 6-3. Hey, Eastside Fantasy Football Podcast. We are rolling. We'll be back on Saturday, hopefully with the full cast of characters. I'm Nick Testoni with no one else here. Thanks for Joe Breider for the good amount of the episode, but we'll see you on Saturday.